So it's just occurred to me just how many Generation 4 mythical Pokemon are eligible for Regulation J, and I might seem a little bit biased because I'm talking about yet another Generation 4 mythical Pokemon, and I am biased because Generation 4 was my favorite generation. I love the Sinnoh region, and by extension, Hisui. And yeah. Today we're talking about Shaymin here, and Shaymin mixes things up because it actually has two different forms between the standard land form, which is the little hedgehog, and then we have our Sky form, which honestly kind of looks more like a dog with wings, but hey, we have Shaymin Sky and Shaymin Land, and honestly, both of these Pokemon I think can be fun, but we're probably going to be looking a little bit more into Shaymin Sky because Shaymin Sky I think is insanely underrated and can be very, very strong depending on how you build around it. And as far as their types and stats go, they are fairly different Pokemon. Shaymin Land here has base 100 across the board, just like mythical Pokemon such as Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, and Manaphy, and even Victini. And then Shaymin Sky mixes things up here by becoming a little bit on the glassier side by lowering the defenses down to 75 while raising the special attack up to 120 and the speed up to 127 while also raising the physical attack up by 3 points to 103. Now, I don't know why they did that with the 103 and the 127, but I think part of the reason being is Shaymin is a Generation 4 Pokemon, and I think back then they just didn't want to give something 130 speed. So, yeah, I think that's probably what they were thinking. Like that at the time, 127 would be really fast, hence the 103 to my speculation, but I don't really know, to be completely honest, and we're not going to linger on it too long. Now, as far as Shaymin Sky goes, it's definitely a strong glass cannon sweeper here, and Shaymin does have a signature move, like most mythical Pokemon, and Shaymin's signature move is Seed Flare, a base 120 grass type attack with 85 accuracy. Now, do I love that 85 accuracy? No, but what I do love is the 40% chance to lower the target's special defense by 2, especially when you factor in that Shaymin Sky, unlike Shaymin Land, has Serene Grace as its ability, which doubles the secondary effect of moves, meaning that Seed Flare is actually sitting at 80% chance to cut something special defense in half right there. So yeah, 80%, that's a really good likelihood of activating. And on top of that too, Shaymin Sky, it's pretty quick. It's got Air Slash. That's naturally a 30% chance, now 60% chance to make something flinch. And it gets access to Earth Power because why not? We have some good ground type coverage here to punish pesky rock and fire type Pokemon that could hit this thing for super effective damage. Now, Shaymin Sky is 4 times weak to ice, which could be a little bit concerning, but honestly, with terrestrialization, you can use that to get around ice type attacks. Now, I currently have Terra Dragon in the builder because I was thinking this could give you resistances to fire, electric, water, and grass, which is all fairly nice. But another Terra option that you could potentially run is Terra Water, and this way you will become resistant to ice type attacks. So you could have that working in your favor. As far as your item choice goes, you could give yourself a choice specs to give yourself a 50% boost to your special attack at the cost of locking yourself in. If you do this, obviously you're not going to be running Protect. You're going to be running a different coverage move, so maybe Dazzling Gleam would be better. But if you are not running a choice item, you could run Protect, and then that way too, Shaymin does have a little bit of insurance since it is on the glacier side in its Sky form. Now, you could also give yourself a 50% speed boost instead by running Choice Scarf, so that could be relatively handy. Regardless of if you're running Specs or Choice Scarf, I think you should consider running Timid as your nature of choice and going max investment into both your special attack and your speed. With a non-beneficial nature, you hit 172 on the special attack, and with the Timid nature, you're going to hit 196 on your speed. But if you do switch that to a modest nature, you do jump up to 189, and honestly, I would only recommend the modest if you're going to run the Scarf. I don't recommend doubling up the modest and the choice specs unless you feel really good about your tailwind numbers. So you could do that, but I'd rather I'd rather have that Timidator just for the extra speed. Now, you could go for a Life Orb so you can choose between your moves and have Protect while still having some respectable damage output, so you could do that. Or you could have a Focus Sash, and then this way too, you can keep Shaymin around and make sure that you live at least one hit. So you could have that Focus Sash for a little bit of insurance. Now, I think Shaymin Sky can dart right in and do some big damage and just clean up in the right situations for sure. This feels like a good time for a tangent. Pokemon is a complex game with plenty of moving parts, thus making the game ever-changing and far more complex than you might realize. It doesn't matter whether you're simply just talking about team building or if you're actually taking part in battle. There are several moving parts that you need to take into account for, and that can be your EV spreads, your type weaknesses, your item choice, what your opponent's shirt might say. Okay, maybe not that one, but case in point, there are plenty of moving parts that you do need to take into consideration while playing the game, and thus it can be a bit complicated at times. I mean, hey, that's what makes the game so fun in the first place. But you know what doesn't have to be overly complicated and complex? Protecting your online security. And that's where today's partner, NordVPN, comes into play. By connecting to their servers, Nord encrypts your ISP, thus making your digital footprint a lot harder to trace, which is just wonderful. And on top of that, they have a built-in ad blocker, so you don't have to worry when you're surfing the web on your phone and clicking into those pesky pop-up ads with your chunky fingers. I mean, hey, phone screens are not that big to begin with, and I don't need to be seeing what my local car dealership has on sale this week. I want to see the good stuff. I want to see the Pokemon. I don't want to see what my car dealership's trying to sell me. But getting back on track, Nord also protects up to 10 different devices at once, which is wonderful because you don't have to worry about being locked into just one singular device with your subscription plan. You can use your laptop, you can use your phone, you can use a tablet. I'm ready to go to different devices to think of. I don't really know people with 10 different devices. I don't live that bougie life. But if you got an extra phone, baby, I don't know. Listen, guys. I microwave my nachos. I am far from bougie. Yeah, we just got painfully real here. But you know what is real and also assuring? Nord's Threat Protection Pro. This is wonderful because it flags websites hosting malware and stops you from entering them, which, I mean, talk about convenient, right? You don't have to worry about your data getting stolen by accidentally clicking into a website that you might think is safe. Once when I was doing some research for a discussion video, I actually landed on one such website, and Nord was there to stop me and said, hey, some things seem a little out of place. You might not want to use this one here, buddy. And so I backed out of it and didn't have to worry about my data getting stolen, which is just wonderful. And if that sounds enticing to you, I have good news. I have a discount link for a 2-year plan. Be sure to use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, for a wonderful 70+% on a 2-year plan. How great does that sound? I think it sounds pretty darn good myself, but I might be a little bit biased on the matter. So use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, to get yourself a wonderful discount on a 2-year plan. Still not convinced? Well, Nord also has their dark web monitor, which also scours the internet looking for those hideout places for those in real life Team Rocket members looking to profit off of your potentially stolen data. And if Nord does find your data out there on the dark web, it does alert you so you can take appropriate action. Use my link, nordvpn.com/shucko, to not only support my channel, but to strengthen your online security. And if you don't like it, well, Nord is all about that customer satisfaction. So within 30 days of purchase, if you aren't happy, Nord does have a 30-day back money guarantee. So honestly, where's the harm in trying it? It's a win-win for both of us. Thank you to Nord for partnering with me for this video. And thank you for checking out my link, nordvpn.com/shucko. Now, back to the video. As landform goes, I don't really know how I feel about this. It does have access to Seed Flare as well, so it could do some big damage, but I don't really know. The nice thing is it does have a little bit more defenses, so you could build a little bit more defensively if you wanted to, or you could just build more towards like a bulkier variant. I would say like maybe you could go for the modest since you do have that base 100 in both defenses, but maybe say you run like 252 HP, 156 into your special attack with that modest nature. And then maybe what you could do is you could run some speed investment if you wanted to, or you could just have the 1 point and run into your defense investment and your special defense. So maybe you have something like this. Shaymin, to my general knowledge, does not get access to Calm Mind. It does not get Nasty Plot. So you're really relying on your Seed Flare to do some big damage while also softening things up if you are running the landform. Now, you're also natural cure as far as your ability goes as opposed to Serene Grace. So you are limited to that 40% option. So just be a little bit careful with Shaymin as far as that goes. Now, as far as some other moves go, what you could have is, if you want to have the physical option, you could run Trailblaze to have a little bit of speed support while boosting up Shaymin's speed and doing some damage. You do have Petal Blizzard, which hits everything on the field, and 90 power is not a terrible thing, but I just don't really know how I feel. But one thing that I think could be funny is Shaymin does actually get Sword Stance, so maybe you do go the physical route. You take Seed Flare out, maybe you go Sword Stance, maybe you have loaded dice, and now you can Sword Stance, maybe get up a substitute somehow, whether it be Shed Tail or just Shaymin naturally using substitute, and then go for Bullet Seed with the loaded dice. So you could potentially do something like that, and then you'd have to just change to, say, like an Adamant Nature at this point. So yeah, you could maybe do something like that instead. And then just to go back and kind of sidetrack, go back into your moves for what it gets on the special side, like you could still have Air Slash or Dazzling Gleam. You can have Earth Power for some coverage. You can have Giga Drain. So like maybe if you are building a bulkier Shaymin, you could have some sustainability with that Giga Drain. Or you could maybe even just opt for Terra Blast for whatever Terra you're running. But honestly, physical Shaymin might be the way to go, to be honest, for land-based. But yeah, I think that's probably the best that you could consider doing as far as land-based Shaymin. Like, I think Sky Shaymin is great for the special attacking front, and then I think land Shaymin might actually be better on the physical side with that Bullet Seed Sword Stance. Do I think it'll work? Maybe not, but I think it's certainly worth exploring and seeing how Shaymin works out. So yeah, let me know what you think of the hedgehogs down in the comments below. This one was a little bit of a quicker video, but sometimes you need a little bit of quicker ones to go from there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what you think of Shaymin, and I will see you next time.